Hi there and welcome to this episode of The Digest. My name is Francesca. Now last week, a two-part series of Wages of Debt commenced. Part 1 of the introductory series focused on Pumulo Mungoma, a teacher at Muchoto Primary School who was living in so much debt that he contemplated committing suicide as a way out of his indebtedness. This week on The Digest, Pumulo Mungoma narrates what lesson he learned from his experience and shares what he has done following what transpired in the Wages of Debt Part 2.
It was on Sunday. I was at church, so I just saw a message from someone. In fact, it was my sister who was calling, so I just ignored the call. So when I went back home, that's when someone came to say, "Are you aware that your husband wants to commit suicide?" Like, no, I'm not aware, because he left home around 8 hours. He just said that, "No, I'm coming." So he just left. So I thought he was just okay where he was. So a friend came and no, he brought him. But are you aware that your husband wants to commit suicide? Like, no, I'm not aware. So that's how the friend now has to sit with him, like, no, trying to encourage him. Then there were also other family friends who were calling after they saw the posting on social media. So they tried to call me. Then they were comforting me. But are you aware of what your husband is trying to do? Then they tried to talk to him and also to me. I felt bad, but I understood the situation at that time because of what I was also going through. I had also pressure, so I tried to, no, don't worry, even me, what you are going through is also what I'm going through. So I was trying to encourage him.
Patani Chilongo is a senior teacher at Muchoto Primary School. He has known Pumulo Mungoma for 21 years before he was even posted as a teacher. He is aware of his colleagues' indebtedness and attempt to commit suicide.
Just to confirm, sir, I would like to say I know about his Mr. Mungoma's indebtedness in terms of debt. And of course, there is a point in time one time he wanted to commit suicide. Mr. Mungoma wanted to commit suicide. He attempted twice to commit suicide. And due to the fact that he overborrowed, he had more credits, he overborrowed, and which made him to try to attempt to do a suicide. Well, I was not aware. I was busy teaching here at Muchoto Primary School. I was teaching a grade 9 class when he passed through the school and he greeted us. I don't know how Mr. Chilongo said, "I'm fine." Then he went into the class and he greeted the pupils. "How are you, learners?" And he greeted them that jovial way. And then he went. And when he went, the ZNS road, there's a road which we call ZNS road near the camp. There he went there, came back. He again passed through the school. Now at one time, we were having some fun, somewhere clubbing. Then Mr. Mungoma started to cry. "Mr. Mungoma, why are you crying?" "No, I never used to have such a life." Then he produced the list of credits which he owed people, and even this to my institutions. He had a lot of credits which which made him want to commit this suicide. So he said he checked the list and the list was endless. Then when he started crying, he said, "Mr. Mungoma, don't cry. You know, these things can spill out." And then some few supervisors, they said, "No, just take it easy, Mr. Mungoma. Please, don't commit or attempt to say, I'm going to kill myself." But you're killing yourself, it's not normal to kill yourself because of these credits. It's better you sort them out. That's how he was cooled down, and then some of the colleagues took him to his house to talk to the wife. To say, no, the young man here wants to commit suicide because of who? This Kongole. Then they discussed, and then it ended there. But later on, a few days later, he went to River Cliff, near River Cliff there, where he wanted also to commit the second attempt of the suicide. And from there, he improved on some issues due to this indebtedness. Well, his lifestyle now has changed, but like previously, this time the life it has a bit changed, because I hear he tells me that he has a few credits. He has a few credits at the moment, and he is able to live a good life.
With so much humiliation as a result of debt, one begs to know what lessons have been drawn from the experience and attempt to commit suicide. Therefore, what is it that Pumulo has done from what he has experienced and learned?
So from all the dramas that happened because of a debt trap, I've learned a number of lessons, a number of them. But most prominently is that don't borrow money and thinking that you can get out of it and disappear from someone. And then the most dangerous territory to play around is to play with other people's money. They will not spare you, and you have no peace. And I've also learned that debt, they ruin relationships. Your best friend could be your worst enemy because of money not paying back. So it's a lessons of a number of lessons. But then also I may want to add that the other lesson I came to learn was that this problem was not just my problem. It's a society problem. And in fact, my problem was smaller than most problems. After my experience, I received a number of calls, a number of testimonies from friends, even those I admired from afar, that they are doing well. They started narrating the story of how they are struggling with their debt. Then I realized we just need to work together and find some solution to this problem, to as many people we can reach to as possible. There's a Zambian renowned author and financial literacy expert by the name of James Kapesa. Mr. James Kapesa runs a company known as Bow and Arrow. So they do a number of projects, including publishing of books. So from we had an experience of having left job, quit job, lost a job, and then we left with nothing for himself, but he managed to rebound. In fact, he wrote a book known as 90 Days After Losing a Job. Then he said, your story is similar to my story, where I'd lost hope, I'd lost job, but I wrote a book out of my story. So why don't you also, we encourage you, we'll train you how to write a book, we'll write manuscript of the book, we'll guide you, so that you write this story and help a generation, so that we can tell this story from a point of view. So that's the encouragement that I'd got. In my life, I never dreamed of writing a book, and it just came. And thanks to COVID-19, we were under lockdown that time. So we managed to put our thoughts together, and within 7 months, the book was ready. The book was ready within 7 months. So the book we wrote, the book is entitled The Wages of Debt. Recover from and manage your debts successfully. A civil servant's personal story. That's the full title of the book, but prominently, of course, it's known as The Wages of Debt. So that's the title of the book, and in the book we document a lot of issues, but most prominently we document our childhood that is common to you and me, our education system, and our family lifestyle that is void of financial literacy. You and me, we may agree that as we were growing up, from grade preschool to university, there is no course that you have done that talks about money. The closest we came was in grade 8, maybe, when we talked about what is money, right? Is it 5 or 6 characteristics of money? That is the closest we came to discussing money. So we chronicled that in our book as part of the package that we have in the book. Okay, the books we have published, so far we have published 2,000 copies. 2,000 copies. And thanks to the support that we got from some financial institutions and other bodies, we can proudly say we are impressed so far with the response we are getting from teachers. But we are talking about civil servants only. We are close to about 300,000 civil servants. 2,000 copies, they are simply a drop in an ocean, in as far as reaching as many people and households as possible. So our main audience, we are targeting civil servants as our priority. But this is a book that is profound to every household. It's a book that every household should have, because it's a book that talks about realities of what we go through financially as households and living in peace with Congo.
James Kapasa is the Director General for the National Health Insurance Management Agency. He is also a renowned Zambian author, investor, financial literacy expert, and a mentor to a selected number of people such as the civil servants and entrepreneurs trying to start up businesses. Mr. Kapasa rose to the occasion, offering counsel and financial literacy advice to Pumulo Mungoma, and this is his account.
So I just noted on social media that there was just a flurry of activities around his Facebook page. And when I checked, I noticed that looks like Mr. Mungoma had been planning to take his life. And I was, of course, I've been mentoring him with many other teachers that I do mentor to create a better livelihood for them, find their purpose in life, especially around the aspect of financial freedom and financial literacy. So after finding out a bit more detail, then we discovered that Mr. Mungoma had tried to manage his own debts within his means, but it reached a point of no return, and he thought that the easiest way to resolve this issue of personal indebtedness was for him to give up and take his own life. So I immediately called him and said I needed to come and see you. This is about 2019. And so rushed to him and found that, thank God, he had stepped back from the abyss of suicide. After spending some time with him, it became clear that what he needed was more financial literacy and mentorship. Now this one more focused on money matters. And so we made an agreement that it's not the money that he needed. Yes, he had a plethora of debts at his income level. It was clear that he could not pay that debt from his income. And so as Boandaro and as his mentor, we then decided to put him on a financial literacy program for over 1 year. And in return for set milestones, would then be redeeming his debt. So the plan, the financial literacy plan, was go and do the following things. At this milestone, we will pay creditor X. And the culmination of the 10 recovery plan, 10-point recovery plan, was that then he must document his experience. And so by the time we're getting to the end of the year, there was a manuscript of his experience. During the same period, I then came to realize that this problem of debt is not confined to Mr. Mungoma. It looked like it was a universal problem across the civil service and particularly the teachers. And so the impetus to write a book for Mr. Mungoma became urgent, that he tells his story so that other people can learn from his experience. First of all, when Mr. Mungoma finished writing his manuscript, there was a lot of work that our company needed to do to make sure that the manuscript was in publishable state. But what attracted our attention is that he wrote the book in his own language, not in jargon. He didn't focus on definitions, on academic stuff, theories, no. He wrote the book on almost his experience on a day-to-day basis. How small habits from the moment he was born, the moment he went to school, no one talked to him about debt, about money. Everyone assumed from his childhood to him going into college, he starts work as a teacher. Everyone assumed because you've been to college, you've been to school, you know the fundamentals about money and debt. And so he starts to narrate this in a very simple and easy to follow way. So this attracted us from a publishing perspective. And so when we finished supporting him to clean up the document, to get it properly typeset and look for a printer for him, we sent some feelers into the market, and it was very clear that this book is going to strike at the heart of the debt problem in families. The book has been out since April this year, and the support has been overwhelming. We have had a lot of sales so far. This is the third reprint we are doing, meaning that we've had a lot of, with some teacher unions, have bought this book to include it in their worker education program. Some banks, as we speak, have also bought this book to start to support the borrowers as part of their loyalty program. And we can see that one or two regulators are interested in seeing how this book can be used as part of CPD. So there's been significant and overwhelming response for this book. But for me as a mentor to him, the journey has just started. How can we use his example to share position to people that yes, you can be in debt, but help is available. And secondly, each one should tell their own story, but the principles around managing and coming out of debt are broadly the same. So the response has been overwhelming, and we're hoping that this also goes to further support Mr. Mungoma from the royalties that he's getting from the book, to make sure that he doesn't fall back into unsustainable debt, but above all, he can utilize his story of shame, if I may call it that way, to create additional revenue and additional income streams for him.
I'll be honest. I'll honestly tell you, to come out of debt, it will can take you about 3 to 5 years. Okay, so what I'm free as at now, I'm out of a debt trap. Okay, so what I'm remaining with is sustainable debt.
Yes, but it's sustainable. Unlike in the past where we see, even now, so you find the way we are seated, someone will just have come to get my money. it was not easy. They would just be coming at any time, even calling. The phone would be ringing. If you just leave the phone for 5 minutes, you find even 5 missed calls from one person. But as at now, at least we don't face that.
By the way, with our project, we are not advocating for people to shun dates. No. What we are advocating for is dates should not be feared. Dates should instead be understood how they work. There are things that they can do, there are things that cannot do. There's what is known as bad date, there's also what is known as the good date. So this is what we are preaching. But if you can live without date, well and good, that's better. But you cannot run away from date. So what we're advocating is let's be at peace with date. Let us be at peace with a creditor. Let us learn how you can come out of a debt trap. Let us learn how you can live a debt-sustainable life. This is what we are preaching. As of today, I still have paragraphs running on my page, and those will take some time, maybe a year or two. But each month, whenever I have a salary, I'm very happy. Even with the little that I get, I'm happy because it's counting down. So every day, you know, still we are remaining with maybe about 15, 16 months. I know within the next 1 year and a half, not more than 2 years, I know that on my pay slip, I should have a full pay, and avoid to do that. Because with this just simple debt swap that government is doing, it's so exciting. You receive the full salary coming, then we realize it's possible, and it's plenty. It's only that we struggle because there are viruses on our pay slip. So we struggle not because we don't get paid enough, because what the actual take home is the minimum. So we are working now on project 2. Project 1, debt trap, is done. So now we are working on project 2. We need now to live a debt sustainable lifestyle. That's what we are preaching. So if I am to mention figures, I don't owe individuals more than a 3,000 kwacha as at now. Part of the lessons we have come to learn, we get into debt mainly because we don't live within our means. Okay? It's even worse for you who work in the media, especially if you work for television stations, because you'd find that when you're on the cameras, you would want to look presentable. Okay? And especially that Vaneba knows that Vasevenza Diamond TV Vaneba. So you'd want to eat well, so that Vaneba have an aroma of nice food cooking. But we are struggling. We don't want to keep our lane. Same with us civil servants, the teachers. Same. We would want to live a life of pretense. You want to please the wrong people. At the end, you spend more on it. So this is where we are calling on bodies, financial lending institutions to come on board also. We know they have an obligation, they are into business, but they should have some conscience telling them, say, they need to contribute towards advocates for financial literacy.
First of all, there are several strategies that at household and personal level you can use to manage your debt. The book that Mr. Mungoma wrote, The Wages of Debt, is not suggesting that people live with zero debt or with no debt at all. Even up to now, as we continue to hold his hand, he's got debts. No one should advocate for a debt-free life. What the book is saying is that you should have sustainable debt which you can manage to pay, and debt which you obtain to put into investments that can give you a return, not debt that you get to go and invest in wasting assets. And it's important for the banks to be applauded. A lot of teachers, a lot of civil servants have borrowed and have gained from the borrowing. They've gone into, they've bought farms. Some of them have upgraded themselves. Some of them are running businesses that have given. So debt in the majority of cases is the best way to attain wealth. The book is targeting those that have acquired debt and used it for non-commercial reasons, and those that have used debt for wasting assets. Mr. Mungoma's life, which is captured in this book, has 3 messages to all of us. The first message is that it's high time that aspects of debt and money are incorporated in the curricula that we give out to our children. They should come out of college, they should come out of grade 7, out of secondary school, out of teaching colleges with rudimentary basics of money and debt. Number 2, debt is a reality. We should not feel ashamed. Mr. Mungoma would have been normal because he thought he was alone. You are not alone. There are a lot of people that have debt, so don't feel ashamed about debt. Help is available. And finally, coming out of debt requires a lot of work. And so, be prepared to meet 1 or 2 people that can support you, but also be prepared to do a lot of work yourself, talking to creditors, making sure that you meet your Bankongole so that you agree on a path forward. Ultimately, getting out of debt from my experience and Mr. Mungoma's experience require us to change our lifestyles, to make sure that we accommodate the additional monies we are paying out. It requires us to change our behavior, it requires us to change sometimes friends, and also it requires us to have a financial plan. Without a plan, a financial plan, like Mr. Mungoma came to realize, you may have a lot of money, but if you have no financial plan, you will borrow at your whims, you will borrow without a plan, and the wages of unsustainable debt could be death, as would have been the case for Mr. Mungoma.
This is the undiluted narrative of Pumulo Mungoma, a Zambian teacher. It is a story that most teachers, civil servants, and other people in general can identify with regards personal financial indebtedness. We propose the following keynotes to consider after speaking to a number of experts. All civil service trade unions engage government of the Republic of Zambia to structure finance management workshops where finance and debt management is taught to all union members. A financial literacy and debt management syllabus in schools as early as primary school. Debt should not be feared, it must be understood. Debt-trapped, indebted, humiliated, and living a life full of sadness with uncertainty for the future, Pumulo Mungoma attempted to take his life, commit suicide. He thought he was alone and all hope was lost. Truth be told, no one is alone in this life, as there is always help. If you're going through a similar situation as Pumulo, talk to someone. There is help out there. Today's Pumulo narratives has changed, and he has written a book and does not owe more than 3,500 kwacha. His campaign message is, don't fear debt, live a sustainable debt life. This testimony emphasizes the need for financial literacy in schools, the civil services, and other sectors, because if left unchecked, this time bomb will explode. Our closing quote is from the Gospel of St. Matthew, chapter 7, verses 7, and I quote, "Ask and it will be given unto you. Seek and you will find. Knock and the door will be opened unto you." That is all we had for this week's episode of The Digest. Remember that we value your feedback. Drop us an email at documentaries@diamondtvzambia.com. Thank you so much for the pleasure of your company. I'm Francesca Phiri Banda. Stay blessed.